If you'd asked me that night what scared me most, I'd have said haunted houses or maybe the dark. Now I know better. The real fear is what waits behind an open door. You know how they tell kids not to talk to strangers? I thought that rule stopped mattering once you got old enough to tell who was safe. Turns out, it doesn't. It was Halloween night, 2011. I was 12, that perfect in-between age where you're old enough to go trick-or-treating without your parents trailing behind, but still young enough to care about the haul of candy waiting to be dumped out on the living room floor later. My best friend Ethan and I had planned the night like a military operation. We had a route, a strategy, and a pact. No skipping houses with lights on. No wasting time on fun-sized neighborhoods. The goal was to fill our pillowcases to the top before curfew. The night was perfect. Cold but not freezing. The air heavy with the smell of pumpkin candles and damp leaves. The sound of laughter and crunching footsteps echoed down the streets. Porch lights blinked like fireflies in the distance. Plastic skeletons swayed on porches. Motion-activated ghosts screamed when you got too close. Felt like Halloween was supposed to feel fun, loud, safe. By around 9 o'clock, most of the houses had gone dark. The candy rush was winding down. Ethan wanted to call it a night, but there was one cul-de-sac left. The kind of spot that always looked promising, big houses, big decorations, probably big candy bars. So we went. That's when we saw him. He appeared at the far end of the street, walking toward us, not fast, not slow, just steady. He wasn't dressed like a parent or anyone out trick-or-treating. No mask, no costume, just a man in dark slacks and a jacket that caught the orange streetlight in a dull sheen. As he got closer, I saw it, a badge pinned to his chest. The metallic glint caught my eye first, then the words, "Police." Ethan and I froze, exchanging quick glances. My first thought was we're in trouble. Maybe there was a curfew we didn't know about, or maybe someone complained about kids being out too late. But when he smiled, that fear melted into something else. Confusion, maybe, or just the kind of nervous politeness kids feel around adults. "Evening, boys," he said. His voice was calm, steady. "You two out getting candy?" We nodded. I remember feeling small, not because of his size, but because of the way he talked, like he was used to being listened to. He crouched slightly to meet our eyes. "Name's Officer Dale," he said, tapping the badge. "You boys live around here?" We both said yes, vaguely, pointing back the way we came. He smiled again like he was relieved. Then his tone shifted, quieter, serious. "There's been a report," he said. "A man down this road, that blue house at the corner. People say he's been trying to get kids to come inside. We've had a couple of complaints tonight." Ethan frowned. "Like, to give them candy?" "Maybe," said Officer Dale. "That's what I need to find out." I remember the way his eyes flicked between us, calculating, like he was deciding something. Then he leaned in and said the words that made my stomach twist. "He won't open the door for police, but he might for kids." I blinked. "What?" "I just need you to knock," he said smoothly. "Pretend to trick or treat. If he tries to get you to come inside, I'll be right here. I'll step in. Easy." Even at 12, something about that felt off. No real cop would ever ask that. But he said it like it was routine, like he'd done it 100 times before. His voice had this calm authority to it. Not pushy, not angry, just steady enough to make you want to obey. I looked at Ethan. He looked at me. Neither of us said a word. "Don't worry," the man said. "You're helping keep people safe tonight." It sounded noble. It sounded important. But it didn't feel right. Before we could respond, something in the distance broke the moment. Laughter. A group of older teens turned the corner, carrying half-empty candy bags and loud voices. The kind of kids who didn't care about being quiet anymore. Their flashlights danced across the pavement, across us, across him. The change in Officer Dale's face was instant. He straightened up, muttered something about checking his car, and turned away. No radio, no car keys, no flashlight. Just the soft click of his shoes fading into the dark. The teenagers stopped when they saw us. "Yo, you good?" one of them called. I nodded automatically, though I wasn't sure. Ethan was pale, gripping his bag so tight the plastic crinkled. "Who was that dude?" another teen asked, looking back toward the darkness. We said he was a cop, or at least he said he was. They looked around, shrugged, and said they'd walk us home. I didn't argue. The walk back was quiet. My heart didn't start beating normally again until I saw my porch light glowing at the end of the street. The teens waved, made jokes about us being rookie trick-or-treaters, and left. Inside, my mom asked if we had fun. I said yes. I didn't mention Officer Dale. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to sound stupid. Maybe I just wanted the night to end. But over the next few days, I kept thinking about it. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his badge, how it caught the light, how he never showed us an ID, how he disappeared the second other people appeared. A week later, my mom mentioned something strange at dinner. She said police were warning parents to be careful that Halloween. There had been reports of someone impersonating an officer in nearby neighborhoods. I nearly dropped my fork. I asked what happened. She said they didn't catch anyone. The man had vanished before anyone got a good look at his car, if he even had one. That night, I stared out my bedroom window for hours, half expecting to see that same silhouette under the streetlight. Years passed. I grew up, went to college, tried to forget that night. But some things stick in your head no matter how much time goes by. A few years ago, out of pure curiosity, I searched Officer Dale Halloween 2011. There was nothing. No articles, no case files, no photos. It was like he never existed. But buried deep on an old online forum, I found something that made my skin crawl. Someone, a user from a nearby town, had posted about a man claiming to be a police officer, asking two boys to help him catch a predator. Same year, same night, different town. No one knew who he was. No one ever saw him again. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if those teenagers hadn't turned that corner at the right moment. If they'd taken a different street. If we'd gone to one more house before heading home. Would he have led us toward that dark corner house? Would we have knocked? Would anyone have noticed we were gone? I try not to think about it too much, but sometimes the thought creeps in late at night, when the world feels quiet and thin. I picture him standing there under that flickering streetlight, his face half-shadowed, his voice calm and confident. And then I remember the detail that chills me most. He never had a patrol car parked nearby. He never had a flashlight, not even a radio, just a badge, a calm voice, and a plan. Sometimes when I'm driving home late and see a police cruiser on the side of the road, I get this urge to look twice, to make sure it's real. Because now I know better, monsters don't always wear masks. Sometimes they wear badges, and sometimes they're the ones who ask you to knock. I used to think the sound of police sirens meant safety. That changed the night they showed up too late. It was Halloween 2016, right in the middle of the killer clown panic. You remember that, right? The news reports, the videos. People dressed as clowns showing up in parking lots, chasing cars, standing in cornfields at night for no reason. Everyone said it was a prank, a trend, a weird internet thing that would pass. Until it didn't. I was 23, living alone for the first time in a small two-story house on the edge of town. It was the kind of place you rent because it's cheap, not because it's charming. Creaky floors, drafty windows. The faint smell of damp would no matter how many candles you burn. Still, it was mine and I liked the quiet. At least I used to. That night, my friends Thomas and Kenny came over. We had this tradition, hand out candy, order pizza, stay up late watching bad horror movies. The house sat just far enough off the main road that only a few kids ever wandered by, but we kept the porch light on anyway. There's something comforting about hearing the doorbell ring, seeing tiny ghosts and vampires shout, "Trick or treat." It made the house feel less empty. By 10 o'clock, the candy bowl was mostly empty, and we were halfway through a movie when Thomas spoke up. "You guys heard about the haunted house a few blocks down?" he asked, grinning. "People are calling it the real deal. Like, legit scary." Kenny groaned. "Every year there's one of those. It's just kids with strobe lights." "Yeah," I said, But we're bored. Thomas's grin widened. Exactly. So we went. The street was nearly deserted when we got there. Most of the houses had gone dark except for one, the so-called haunted house. Floodlights painted the yard red, and fake tombstones littered the grass. The speakers crackled with the sound of laughter and chains. We paid a few bucks at the entrance and stepped inside. It was what you'd expect. Tight hallways, fog machines, costumed volunteers jumping out from behind curtains. But it was fun. Loud, cheap, predictable fun. Until we reached the last room. That's where they were. 3 clowns. Not the kind you see at birthday parties. These were taller, bulkier, each wearing handmade masks that looked wrong. Too much detail. Yellowed teeth. Cracked paint. Their eyes didn't move, but I swear I could feel them following us. They didn't lunge or scream like the others. They just stood there silent, heads tilted slightly, blocking the exit. Part of the act? Kenny whispered. Maybe, I said, though I wasn't sure. Thomas laughed nervously. Okay, good job, you got us. Creepy as hell. We pushed past them, trying to play it cool. But they turned, each in perfect unison, and followed slow, deliberate steps that matched our pace exactly. Even when we exited the building, they stopped just inside the doorway, watching us as we walked away. I tried to shake it off. Just actors doing their job too well. But something about it stayed with me. They hadn't spoken. Not once. We got back to my place around 11:30. The street was empty, porch lights off, the world back to normal. We joked about the haunted house, poured some drinks, tried to laugh off how unsettled we'd felt. By midnight, Thomas and Kenny decided to head home. You good here? Thomas asked. Yeah, I said, forcing a grin. What's the worst that could happen? He smirked. Don't say that on Halloween. When the door closed and their taillights faded down the street, the silence felt heavier than usual, the kind that fills every corner of the house. I turned off the TV, locked the door, and went upstairs. That's when the doorbell rang. Once, clear, loud. I froze. It was 12:04 a.m. No kids trick or treat that late. No deliveries. I waited, listening for movement. Maybe a drunk neighbor or someone lost. Nothing. Just the wind pushing against the siding. After a minute, I convinced myself to ignore it. Probably a prank. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Not at the front door this time, in the backyard. I crept toward the window overlooking the yard, keeping the light off. My heart was hammering so loud it felt like it might give me away. When I flipped the porch light switch, 3 shapes exploded into motion. Sprinting away from the house, masks glinting under the light. Clowns. Those same clowns. My stomach dropped. They'd followed us home. I texted the group chat we'd made earlier that night. Me. Guys, the clowns from the haunted house were just here. Kenny, you're kidding. Thomas, lock your doors. Kenny, call the cops. I dialed 911 immediately, trying to keep my voice steady. While the dispatcher asked for details, I heard it. A sharp crack from downstairs. Glass. My blood ran cold. I think they broke a window, I whispered. Stay on the line, the dispatcher said. Can you lock yourself in a room? I ran upstairs, into my bedroom closet, phone clutched tight. The dispatcher's voice sounded distant, tinny, like it was underwater. All I could hear was the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate, climbing the stairs one at a time. My breathing turned shallow. I covered my mouth, trying not to make a sound. The footsteps stopped, just outside my door. Then came silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that listens. Minutes passed, or maybe seconds, I couldn't tell. Every creak of the house felt amplified. I thought about bolting for the window, jumping if I had to. Then, faint but growing louder sirens. Red and blue lights washed through the blinds. The footsteps thundered back down the stairs. A crash, a door slamming, and then nothing. When the police arrived, I couldn't even speak at first. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my phone twice. They searched the house, guns drawn, flashlights cutting through the dark. No one was inside. Nothing was missing. just shattered glass across the kitchen floor, and 3 smeared shoe prints near the back door. Probably kids, one of the officers said, his tone too casual. Kids don't follow people home from haunted houses, I muttered. He paused, looking at me for a long moment before writing something in his notebook. Keep your doors locked. We'll patrol the area tonight. That was it. They left me standing there amid the broken glass and the fading echo of sirens. For days afterward, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump. The wind, the fridge clicking on, the floorboards shifting at night. Each noise became a possibility, a warning. I started keeping a bat by the bed, moved a chair under the doorknob, told myself it was just paranoia. Then, 2 nights later, I found something that made my heart stop. Outside the broken window, in the soft dirt near the garden, there were footprints, fresh, and next to them something small and round, a red rubber nose, split down the middle like it had been torn off. I called the police again, but they didn't find anything new. No suspects, no leads. They said the prints could have been old. But I knew better. The dirt was damp from rain the night before. Those prints were made after. It's been years now. I moved out, sold the house, changed my number. I still can't stand clown costumes, even the silly ones at kids' parties. And sometimes, when the wind rattles my shutters or a branch taps the window just right, I feel that same pulse of dread. Because here's what I can't shake. They didn't come to steal anything. They didn't even try to hurt me right away. They wanted me to see them, to know they could find me again. And maybe, just maybe, they weren't finished. Because even now, on cold October nights, I'll hear it sometimes. A faint sound outside, too rhythmic to be the wind. A single knock, then another. And I remember that feeling, the silence that listens. Sirens don't comfort me anymore. They only remind me of how late they came. The scariest thing about monsters isn't that they wear masks. It's that they can take them off and still walk among us. I was 14 the last time I ever went trick-or-treating. That age where you're not really a kid anymore, but you're not ready to give up the magic either. My best friend, Marcus, and I had promised each other one last year. One final run before we were too old to knock on doors for candy. Our neighborhood was good for it, too. Big houses spaced far apart, long driveways, huge trees that blocked out most of the streetlights. The kind of place where people handed out king-size chocolate bars because they could afford to. We'd mapped out our route days in advance. Hit the new subdivision first, loop back through the old part of town, and finish near my house. By the time we reached the middle of our list, our bags were heavy, our feet sore, and the night air had that crisp October bite that smells like leaves and smoke. It was around 9:30 when we saw it. A house neither of us remembered ever seeing before. It sat half-hidden behind a row of overgrown trees, the siding faded gray and peeling. The porch light flickered like a dying candle, struggling to stay lit. A white van was parked in the driveway. No license plates, no stickers, nothing but streaks of dirt along the sides. The windshield reflected just enough of the porch light to make it impossible to see inside. Marcus slowed down. "You ever noticed this house before?" I shook my head. "No, maybe it's new." He squinted. "Doesn't look new." He was right. It looked old, but not abandoned. The kind of house that still had power and furniture, just no one you'd want to meet living in it. We were about to skip it when the front door opened. A man stepped out. He was wearing a full Scream costume, long black robes, rubber gloves, and the signature white ghost face mask. The porch light flickered across him, turning that plastic grin into something almost alive. He didn't say anything, just stood there, still as stone, holding out a bowl of candy. We looked at each other, nervous laughter bubbling up the way it does when you're trying to act older than you feel. "Trick or treat," Marcus said, his voice cracking halfway through. The man didn't respond. He just dropped candy into our bags, one piece each. Then, in a low voice that sounded muffled through the mask, he said, "Wait, I've got something special inside." He gestured toward the open door. The hallway behind him was dark except for a faint yellow light deeper in the house. For a second, I thought he meant a special kind of candy like full-size bars or homemade treats. That's how innocent we still were. So we followed. The moment we stepped inside, I knew we shouldn't have. The air was heavy, like the house had been sealed up for years. It smelled faintly of dust and something sour underneath it. The walls were lined with Polaroid photos, hundreds of them, strung across like a gallery. At first, I thought it was just Halloween decorations until I looked closer. Every photo was of a child. Different costumes, different years. Each picture had a date scribbled along the white border in marker. 2008, 2009, 2010. But none of them were newer than 2011. And every kid in those photos was smiling. Wide, happy, oblivious. Marcus nudged me. What is this? Before I could answer, the man reappeared at the end of the hall. He was still wearing the mask, but now he was holding something new, a Polaroid camera. He raised it slowly. "Don't forget to smile," he said. The sound of the camera powering up was louder than it should have been. That's when my instincts finally kicked in. I forced a shaky grin and said, our moms are waiting in the car. We should probably go." He didn't move, didn't speak, just tilted his head, that slow, disappointed gesture that made the mask seem almost human. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he could hear it. "Come on," I whispered to Marcus. We turned and bolted out the front door. I expected him to chase us, but when we looked back, he was still standing there on the porch, camera hanging loosely at his side, the flash reflecting in the mask's hollow eyes. We didn't stop running until we were 2 streets away. Both of us were gasping, laughing in that shaky, adrenaline-fueled way you do when you're trying not to admit how scared you are. "That was insane," Marcus said, bending over, hands on his knees. "Yeah," I said. "Let's just go home." We started walking again, slower this time, our candy bags thumping against our legs. The neighborhood felt different now, quieter, emptier. Most of the porch lights had gone out. Even the air felt colder. Then, from behind us, I heard the low hum of an engine. A white van was rolling down the street, headlights off. My stomach dropped. "Marcus!" He turned. His face went pale. The van slowed to a crawl behind us, maybe 30 feet back. We ran. The sound of gravel crunching under its tires followed us as we sprinted down the road, cutting through yards, leaping over garden fences. The van's engine roared, then cut off suddenly. That silence was worse than the noise. We ducked behind a hedge, breathing hard, trying to listen. The van door slid open, footsteps on pavement. We didn't wait to see more. We bolted again, cutting through a field behind my house. The grass whipped at our legs, the cold air burning our lungs. When we finally reached my backyard, we collapsed behind the shed, too scared to move. The night was dead silent. No footsteps, no engine, nothing. Marcus whispered, "Do you think he..." "Don't," I said. "Just don't." We waited there for maybe 20 minutes before sneaking inside through the back door. My mom was half asleep on the couch when we walked in. "Where were you two?" she asked groggily. I told her everything, the house, the pictures, the man, the van. She listened, nodded a few times, and then sighed. "Sweetheart," she said, "it's Halloween. People pull pranks. Don't let it scare you." I wanted to argue, but I didn't, because even then, I knew arguing wouldn't make her believe me. The next morning, I went back, or at least I tried to. The house was gone. Not burned down, not destroyed, just gone. The lot was empty except for some half-rotted boards and tire tracks in the dirt, like no one had lived there for years. Marcus came with me that afternoon. We stood there for a long time, both of us staring at the same patch of overgrown grass, waiting for some sign we hadn't imagined it. But there was nothing. No van, no photos, no trace. I haven't gone trick-or-treating since. Every Halloween, I keep the lights off, close the blinds, pretend I'm not home. Sometimes I still talk to Marcus about that night. We've both told ourselves it was just a prank or a weird haunted house setup we didn't understand. But deep down, we know better, because some nights, I still dream of that hallway, the way the Polaroids looked under that yellow light. the smell of the house, and that voice, low and calm behind the mask, saying, "Don't forget to smile." A few years ago, I found something that made it all worse. I was cleaning out an old box of stuff from my childhood: notebooks, ticket stubs, random junk. At the very bottom was a folded piece of paper. Inside it was a Polaroid, me and Marcus, standing on that porch, smiling. On the bottom, in black marker, was the year 2016. Now, every time I look at it, I think about that hook I started with. The scariest thing about monsters isn't that they wear masks. It's that they can take them off and still walk among us. People think Halloween is scary because of ghosts and monsters, but the truth is scarier than fiction. It's that on one night of the year, everyone hides behind a mask. Some people take theirs off when the night ends. Others never do.